Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we'll be talking support heroes. Now what we're going to be exploring is the idea of supports being easy, low impact heroes that people with weaker mechanics should play, leaving the true impact DPS heroes to other, better players. That somehow the support role is supposed to be easier in terms of FPS mechanical demands it asks of the player. That might have been true once upon a time, but between reworks and meta shifts, supports have a massive skill ceiling that often goes unrecognized. Well, to remedy this, we have to speak in quite conceptual terms for a moment, and the first thing we have to unpack is the culture of role expectations. Many players seem to think DPS carries games, which they can, but it's a mistake to view the play of tanks and supports as passive passengers, being carried along by this one truly important role, standing around waiting for the DPS to do something. Truthfully, supports are actually some of the most powerful heroes in the game, and wielding that power carries games in a way that DPS cannot. And in today's Overwatch, making the plays you need to as a support is no longer mechanically less demanding than other roles. Some of the misconceptions about this are based on old ideas. Ana wasn't too hard to play in the 3 to 4 tank meta. Lucio's map-wide aura used to be his main value, and Zen is somehow viewed as more support than damage when actually the opposite is true. Only Mercy could be called somewhat easy to play, but even so, her positioning and movement is akin to the tanks. But especially for the big three, Ana, Zen and Lucio, their mechanical skill cap is as high as the hardest DPS classes. Zenyatta is Hanzo in support's clothing. Ana's skill shots are alike to McCree, and the movement and projectile accuracy of Lucio makes him the support Genji in terms of mechanical skill set. Now all of that might sound controversial, but allow me to explain. Support heroes have lower skill floors, since they have abilities that guarantee value. A lower skilled player is likely to do more on Lucio than constantly missing shots on Genji. At least he has his aura to give to his teammates as Lucio. But at the high end, the skill ceiling for supports is equally as high as the DPS stars, and when actualized, the gap between the support output and the DPS output shrinks to almost nothing. This is the reason why in some metas we've seen pros pick Zen in the DPS slot, or why Lunatic High puts their star Ana player on Soldier sometimes. The importance of this distinction gets to a deeper point. The roles of Overwatch help describe play styles, they don't define skill sets or hero difficulty. Often players who fancy themselves very skilled gravitate towards DPS. Yet with what we've already discussed, they either equally could show skill on a support and in some cases even more. Bar the extremely high level with Defran levels of tracking, Ana is often the bigger impact, higher skill cap hero, yet you might not get this impression when everyone picks DPS at the hero select screen. This gets down to understanding how the game of Overwatch is structured. Really every hero is an FPS skill set of some sort, and all of them can be mastered. Although D.Va and Winston's aim is obviously easier than that of McCree, it can still be mastered. But one step further, supports distinctly perform the same difficult mechanical actions as the other FPS heroes in the game. Mercy aside, all others have huge skill elements to their kit, and it's being able to perform these harder actions that really makes the difference in many team fights. Zen's charge shot and projectiles, Lucio's wall riding and improved damage output, all of Ana's kit but especially her sleep dart, these are not easy to optimize, and some of them harder than what other roles have to do. Sleeping a Genji blade is harder than anything Reaper has to do, for example. Somehow the assumption that you don't have to hit shots as a support has taken root, as if it's not as important for you to do so as it is for the other heroes. That's not true. The sheer amount of mechanical impact you can have on Zen, Lucio and Ana is severely underestimated, but not by all. Lunatic High have arguably the two best support players in the world in Toby and Jaehong. You'll be keen to look out for them as they run the table at the World Cup, as although the DPS of Team South Korea got a lot of shine, it's the supports that played nearly flawless. The amount of value that they eke out of Lucio and Ana in particular is staggering. Jaehong steals the limelight a lot because he is by far and away the best Ana in the world, but Toby can be devastating as Lucio. Yes, I said devastating, as in the ratio of his team's damage that he can output on Lucio would shock you. Last season of Apex he averaged 10%, that was nearly double that of all the other Lucios. Toby mate, calm down. There's a cognitive block with our attitude concerning support play and players. It's a case of low expectations, concealing just how much room there is for exceptional skill from this role. And it's not just potential skill, but it's actually now required skill. Because supports have harder shots to output comparable value to other roles, that doesn't mean it's okay to just accept that you won't hit them. Rather, the thought process should be, I have to be amazing at mastering these difficult shots because I have to work that much harder. This is the essence of a skill gap. The best supports will have such well developed hero mastery that they will be able to duel with Lucio, hitting multiple headshots to win out while at a disadvantage against a DPS. This is why most pro teams gave up diving Toby and Jaehong. They're both so good, they make the job almost impossible, and teams very quickly found out how resource expensive it was to try and bully the best support duo in the world. When support players are that good, the impact is game changing. Good luck Genji blading Jaehong, he'll most likely sleep dart you out of it. The biggest of all these misconceptions is Lucio, a hero that is still criminally underpicked in matchmaking. If you're mechanically gifted at the game, and you're among the many of the insta-lock DPS players out there, even when the team comp isn't balanced, you should re-evaluate your perceptions of Lucio as a low impact hero. We've heard many incorrect assumptions about him, that you can more or less just aura around and still provide value, but in fact, the true skill cap of Lucio is incredibly high, and requires the player to master his difficult projectile to do impact damage while you use his wall ride to get to your teammates properly. Lucio is actually very mechanically demanding if the goal is to have as much impact as say a Toby does, and it is possible. But good mechanical players somehow see him as beneath them. They don't respect the role either, and that's the problem. One area that everyone underestimates him in is bulk damage to large targets. Tanks often completely ignore you as Lucio, choosing instead to aim their attention in the direction of a more conventional threat. If you're a sick player, you'll be able to pump significant damage into them from an unexpected angle. Creating that extra threat is a huge play in itself. Shooting Diva Mech relentlessly in the back as she's defense matrixing in the other direction is something she won't thank you for when she jumps out after it's broken in record time. As I said, Ana once felt very easy when multiple tanks held her hand, but in the meta we're in now, where many skillful heroes are played, Ana's true difficulty shows. There's a reason why the best Korean team's best player is an Ana main and not a DPS, and the sick DPS Korean named Nox traded to Runaway to play Ana. The output and the control of the game from the support slot is so big in the right hands, it can't be ignored. If you've ever watched Jaehong play, it's astounding the amount of actions he performs. He never stops contributing, be that clutch heals, anti-nades, big value sleeps, and even damage. To be able to do that, you have to be an outrageously skilled player mechanically. The breadth of the impact you can have as Ana is unlike any other hero in the game. In the current meta, she's even harder, not just because of the difficulty of staying alive against double flanker, but in actually finding the gaps to get your value off with Winston bubbles and defense matrix blunting your edge. Let's quickly talk about my boy Zen. Zen's damage is better than some DPS heroes, and he does get a little bit more playtime from mechanically good players. The skill set it takes to play him is a bit more directly obvious to most, because after all, he is essentially a DPS with damage amp and nominal healing. Discord is outrageous, by the way. Sure, people think it's good, but I don't think people actually realize how devastating it can be, especially if you're a player who never plays support at all. Supports are so powerful, and as far as the win condition is concerned, must-haves if you want to win the game that you're in. The actual impact you can have when playing them is so great, it's a shock that so many players opt to create unbalanced team comps with too few tanks and supports rather than swap the third or fourth DPS pick onto a hero that does almost as much DPS but so much more for the team as well. There are obviously some heroes that have a higher skill cap than these skilled supports. Widow, Hanzo, McCree, Genji, and debatably a few more. However, many heroes are quite comparable, if not easier, and if you consider yourself a skilled player, you should be able to play these skilled positions. They do loads for the team, and it's where a lot of Overwatch skill is hidden away. Somehow there's this assumption that a player plays DPS, which isn't really a skill set. The hero roster is too wide. The pros split up players by projectile or hit scan, and it's very common for a DPS player to go onto a support hero to great effect, or the other way around. Jaehong and Esker swapping out to Soldier and Sombra respectively is a great example of that. The problem is the perception of the term support, as if it means not having direct impact. There's this matchmaking obsession to always try and be the star player. However, in Overwatch, since it's not just a pure shooter game, support has some of the biggest impact abilities. They have some of the best star player utility. Ana is the apex of that idea. Her nade or sleep dart can often be the only relevant shot landed in a team fight. This is why watching Korean pros is so revealing. They don't think about the game in the same way. They respect the difficulty and application of every role. Every player is a star if they're good enough. It doesn't matter what hero or role they play. What matters is the impact they draw out of their pick. Oftentimes in matchmaking, it seems players are reluctant to play support, yet instead force a team comp that doesn't work or have any cohesion, simply hoping to get individual DPS output. Yet if you have McCree, Hanzo, Widow on your team and you're all spamming into the right Rein's shield, you're doing far less than you would be if you just picked Zen, discorded the Rein, and sent little old Winston's Tesla to zap through it. Heroes are like tools. A lot of players use a hammer instead of a saw to chop wood, all because they identify as a hammer player. DPS is the most weighted category of power in Overwatch actually, and because of that requires a much higher mechanical input to get comparable output to another pick. Sure, if you have the shuriken accuracy of agilities from Immortals, you can carry games, but as far as matchmaking is concerned, if you think you've got aim, you can do work from the support slot, which really in Overwatch just means hybrid slot, because all of the Overwatch heroes are active in nature. They all take some level of FPS skill, and the supports right now are near the highest in output and skill cap. DPS Lucio is a thing, if you're good enough, but first, you have to be open enough to pick him in the first place. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in good company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time.